Well, aloha. Aloha, aloha. And I can never tell with these videos at what point I actually go live. So, aloha. Good afternoon. And welcome to today's conversation, which is all about being a scary woman. And this thought came about because one of my coaching clients, she was coming to the end of her coaching, and as we were doing the feedback and the wrap up, she commented that at the beginning of the program, she'd regarded me as a scary woman. Her contact with her or her knowledge of me was that I was scary. And she was a bit scared and a bit apprehensive about having coaching with me. As it turned out, she told me the coaching had been really valuable. She'd loved working with me and all was good. However, it left me thinking because I've had this feedback for many years that I'm a scary woman. And 20 years ago, being thought scary, it hurt. It really, really hurt because I didn't know how to do differently. Now I'm older and wiser. And hey, if people find me scary, they find me scary. I'm not going to change it now. But it did have me thinking about what does it mean for a woman to be thought scary? And what do you do if you are thought scary? And what's going on, even if you're not a scary woman, but you know women who are, what might be going on there? So today is all about scariness. So let's start at the beginning. So as I say, I've been thought scary for a long time. And actually, I can remember my mum telling me. Now, my mum, just to make this clear, my mum was a very brave, courageous, adventurous woman. And I'm sure if she hadn't wanted to have children and get married, she would have ended up at somewhere near the top of the Women's Army Nursing Corps. But in her generation, you couldn't be there. Not you couldn't be married if you were in the army. But I remember my mum saying to me, dear, you have to be careful. You're very scary, and you'll scare off the men. Women couldn't be powerful in my mother's eyes, and she was a powerful woman in her own right because it would scare off the men. So there's something in our culture, there's something in our society, and certainly for women of my mum's class and generation, she was born in the early 20s, that you mustn't scare people. And especially, you mustn't be a powerful woman. You mustn't come across as somebody who's going to scare off the men. When I was growing up, so in the 60s mostly, there weren't many powerful women role models in public life. So I remember Barbara Castle, she was a minister. There were occasionally ministers in government. There was the odd actress, but the role models weren't there. So the concept of a powerful woman was quite hard to get your head round. It's different now, thank God. There are many, many more role models for young women growing up. There are women in politics, there are women in law, medicine, the public eye. Wherever you look, there are some really good role models. There are some really rubbish role models as well, but we'll come to that in a moment. So there are more role models now. But the question is, what's wrong with a woman being powerful? Because that's really what it's all about. That there's something inherently wrong about being a woman who is powerful and passionate and has a certain energy. There's something wrong about it because women aren't supposed to be like that. And even now, women aren't supposed to be like that in still in many areas. A man can be, oh, yes, he has an authority about him. A woman, oh, she's scary. A man, oh, he has an attitude of command. A woman, she's too shrill. So there are still judgments in our society about what being powerful as a woman looks like. And one of the things that I have also been reflecting on, because I've coached quite a few scary women in my time, is what is it that's underneath the scariness? What is it that's You know, there are some women who are very quietly powerful and we don't feel less scary. And there are some of us who are perhaps noisily powerful and we feel less scary. So, what might be going on? And I think there's a huge link between power and vulnerability in this context because we hear a lot about vulnerability now and how it's important to be vulnerable. But for a lot of women, being vulnerable, certainly at university, maybe in teenage years, at university, in early years, being vulnerable implied danger. It was a dangerous thing to be. You don't want to be vulnerable because, firstly, what might people think? But it's not just what might people think. But if you're vulnerable, the word comes from the Latin vulnerus, which means a wound, vulnerare, to wound. So there's this implication that vulnerable means that you're either are wounded or you're opening yourself up for getting wounded. Well, none of us want that. And if we look at what's been going on with the demonstrations about women's rights to be safe, none of us want to be vulnerable in that way. We don't want to be open to attack. But there is something about being vulnerable, being open, about talking about our fears, our joys, our loves, so that people can connect with us. But we're almost educated into putting up the mask, into not quite showing. Because when you put up the mask, you can appear tough, you can appear strong, and nobody's going to get me. And as a woman, nobody's going to attack me. Vulnerability is so important for connection. It's so important for building trust. And we shouldn't have to hide away or shy away from vulnerability because of fear that it might cause us to be wounded. So I think for a lot of women, there's a scariness factor. Either we're taught that it's not okay to be vulnerable, it's dangerous, or we're taught it's not okay to be vulnerable because then we look weak and we don't want to be weak women, do we? Or we don't even know what vulnerable looks like. And I know that certainly was something that was true for me because probably 15 years ago, I had a business partner. He was a guy and he kept telling me, Jane, you need to be more vulnerable. And I'd be going, what are you talking about? I am vulnerable. I share about my clinical depression. I share I was bullied at school. I share this, I share that. I am vulnerable. What are you talking about? But I didn't really know what it was. And it was a kind of energy that I didn't know how to access. And I think that's true for quite a few women who are labeled as scary, putting on the mask, because actually we don't know how to access that level of vulnerability. Some women don't even know that they're powerful. Some women don't even know that their energy is so strong, because when you live inside yourself, how would you know? How do I know that my energy is so strong? Okay, people tell me, but they tell me from where they sit. What is it? I remember being told that I was too fiery when I'm up on stage presenting, and I didn't quite get it. But it's too much fire, too much passion. So there's something about, there are times when we need to moderate our passion, when we need to match the energy as vulnerable, as powerful women. We need to match the energy of those around us, because if they're not at that energy level, if they don't feel that passion, that force, it's really easy to become too powerful and therefore scary. We've all met people, been in the presence of people that you think, oh no, my God, that person is just too much. So how do we moderate our energy so that we can match the people around us without being weak, without being inauthentic, without being untrue to who we are? Because that's another danger. When you acknowledge that you're powerful and scary, how can you still be true to yourself? How can you express yourself? Is vulnerability, when I'm vulnerable, am I being authentic? Because I'm powerful. So there's an awful lot of questions for women who have who have power, who are described as too powerful or too scary. And for me, part of the journey really has been developing vulnerability and understanding that vulnerability doesn't mean putting yourself at risk. Vulnerability doesn't mean being weak. You can be powerful, but you can be vulnerable. And the real truth is that when you step into that place of vulnerability, when you step into that place of being able to own who you are and able to own the good bits as well as the bad bits, and able as well to flex your energy a little more, when we step into that space, then we start to be able to express vulnerability. And the real gift of vulnerability is that when we show true vulnerability, and I'm not talking about that the kind of victim martyry vulnerability that some people do display, but when we do express that vulnerability that really comes from the heart, that comes from a true place, an authentic place, the gift that we get is connection. So if you're out there and you sometimes feel that it's not right to be vulnerable or it's not right to show your power, then go ahead, show your power, show your vulnerability. And if you're a woman who occasionally gets called scary or even gets called scary a lot, yay, celebrate. It's good to be scary. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm running an introduction to Huna, a 2-day introduction to Huna at the end of the week on the 26th, 27th, the morning Zoom. It's a 2-day morning Zoom program. So do join me, and there are links all over the place. And otherwise, love to hear your comments, love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this? Do you find scary women scary? Do you find powerful women scary? Are you a powerful woman? Do people find you scary? And what do you feel about this whole question of women stepping into their power? And I will see you next week. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.